Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time, way, way back to a world you'd barely recognize. Imagine the humid air, thick with the scent of ferns and decay, the ground beneath your feet, a soft, loamy cushion of leaves and ancient moss. The sounds aren't what you're used to. There's no distant hum of traffic or chattering squirrels. Instead, you hear the low rumble of a passing herd of mastodons, the rustle of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, and the surprisingly gentle crack of a branch giving way under immense weight. This is a journey to the late Pleistocene epoch, a time when colossal beasts roamed the Americas, and you are here a silent observer in their world. You're about to explore the prehistoric garden of a creature so massive and so strange it feels like something out of a dream, the giant ground sloth. And let's be real, you probably won't survive this, but for now you are safe, tucked away, and watching. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand on the edge of a vast forested plain. The trees are different here, not the oaks and maples, but towering conifers and strange broad-leafed species that seem to drink the heavy, misty air. The sun, when it breaks through the canopy, casts long, shifting shafts of light that dance with dust motes and ancient pollen. The ground is a living carpet of flora, a botanical tapestry woven over millennia. This is the stage, a snapshot of the Pliocene and Pleistocene boundary about 2.5 million years ago. A time when the Earth's climate was in flux and the great ice ages were just beginning to shape the landscape. This is a mainstream historical fact. The planet was a dynamic, ever-changing place long before we got here. You feel the ground vibrate with a distant rhythmic thudding. It's not the thunder of a predator, but something slower, more ponderous. You follow the sound, pushing aside a giant fern frond, its texture like thick leather, cool and damp against your hand. The air smells of rich, dark earth and a hint of something sweet like overripe fruit. It's the smell of life in full, unapologetic bloom. This is the kind of detail that historians still argue whether our ancestors would have even noticed the sheer, overwhelming sensory overload of a prehistoric world. We're so conditioned to a sanitized environment that the raw wildness of this place is almost a physical presence. The scale of everything here is bigger. The insects are larger, the trees taller, and the feeling of being small, insignificant is powerful. You make your way through a thicket of what looks like giant horsetails, a plant family that has been around forever. They tower over your head, their segmented stalks reaching for the light. This is a place of deep time where some plants you might see today have been thriving for millions of years, little changed. It's a quirky tidbit to remember. While the Megafauna may be gone, a lot of their supporting cast is still around, just in smaller, more humble forms. You step into a clearing, and the sight that greets you makes you involuntarily stop and hold your breath. It's not a beast, not yet. It's a scene of vast, verdant meadow dotted with peculiar, almost otherworldly shrubs and what appear to be ancient palms. The sheer diversity of plant life is staggering. It's an herbivore's paradise. A buffet laid out on an epic scale. You can see the distinct tracks of a large animal, not hoof prints, but something more like a human hand, only monstrously large and with the telltale drag marks of huge, blunt claws. This isn't just a forest. It's a larder, a pantry, a carefully tended garden, and you are walking right into the heart of it. The land itself is a character in our story. The geological record shows a world of alternating wet and dry periods, creating a mosaic of different habitats. Some areas were vast grasslands, others dense forests, and still others were swampy marshlands. The giant sloth, we'll discover, was a creature built for this patchwork of environments. It wasn't just a passive resident. It was an active participant, a kind of prehistoric landscape gardener, shaping the very world it lived in just by existing. Its movements, its feeding habits, its sheer bulk, all of it had a profound impact on the distribution of plants and the creation of clearings like the one you are standing in. Imagine that a creature so big that its daily stroll is literally a form of terraforming. A bit like how you make a new trail in a forest just by walking the same path repeatedly, except on a scale that would make your jaw drop. You just walked into its workshop. You can almost hear the faint rustle of leaves as if something is watching you from within the trees, and the air holds a certain stillness, the kind of quiet that precedes a momentous event. Your heart starts to beat a little faster. The ground shudders again closer this time, and you instinctively retreat behind the gnarled trunk of a jubusikut, a squat, prehistoric-looking plant with a crown of stiff fronds. The sound resolves into a slow, deliberate trudge, a rhythmic series of soft, heavy thuds. You peek out your breath, caught in your throat, and see it. Or rather, you see him, a male, Megatherium americanum, an animal so vast that your modern mind struggles to process its scale. He stands maybe 6 meters long and towers almost 4 meters at the shoulder when he rears up. This creature is the size of a small elephant, but built like a bear with a squat, powerful body and long, curving arms that end in immense claws. You might even find yourself thinking, that's a sloth, no way. And yet there he is, the gentle giant of the Americas. He moves with a surprising grace for his bulk, his hind legs supporting a substantial portion of his weight, while his forearms act as a kind of counterbalance. His fur is a mottled mix of brown and gray, thick and shaggy, and you can see a kind of prehistoric moss and even small nesting insects living within it. This is a common sight in the animal kingdom. Creatures often become walking ecosystems carrying a whole community of smaller life forms with them. It's a quirky tidbit you probably wouldn't have thought of. This creature isn't just one being. It's a bustling, walking city of life. He stops, and the silence that follows is profound. He's not agitated. He doesn't seem to have noticed you. His head, surprisingly small for his body, is held low, and his movements are slow, deliberate, and almost meditative. His ears, small and round, twitch as he listens to the world around him. He uses his powerful forelimbs to reach up, hooking his enormous claws onto the trunk of a broad-leafed tree, a species you don't recognize. With a deep groaning sound that seems to come from his very core, he pulls the entire branch down. The wood splinters and groans a symphony of organic destruction. You watch as he begins to strip the leaves from the branch with his mouth. His teeth, you notice, are not sharp and serrated like a predator's. Instead, they are high-crowned and flat, perfect for grinding tough, fibrous plant material. This is a key piece of mainstream historical fact, the fossil record of Megatherium. Teeth shows a clear adaptation to a vegetarian diet. Historians still argue, however, about whether the giant sloth was a strict herbivore, or if it occasionally supplemented its diet with carrion, or small animals, though the evidence for the latter is sparse and debated. Some researchers suggest its immense claws might have been used for defense or to dig for roots, not to hunt. But right now you are watching a plant-eater in action. He stands on his hind legs using his powerful tail-like counterbalance to support himself. This bipedal stance, which makes him even more intimidating, allows him to reach higher into the canopy, accessing a world of food that's out of reach for most other large herbivores. This is one of the things that made him so successful. He was a vertical forager, a living ladder, a one-man band of tree-pulling, leaf-stripping, and branch-snapping. The sheer power required to do this is astonishing. You watch mesmerized as he tears through the foliage, the sound of his chewing a soft, rhythmic crunching. The giant sloth is a creature of contradictions. He is immense and powerful, yet his movements are slow and gentle. He is a master of his environment, yet he seems completely at ease, unbothered by the world around him. He isn't worried about anything. He is simply existing, living his life in a world that is his for the taking. The air around him seems to hum with a certain quiet authority. It's the kind of presence that doesn't demand attention. It just has it. He is the king of this part of the forest, not because of brute force, but because of his sheer, unbothered scale. He drops the stripped branch, a heavy thud echoing through the clearing, and moves on his slow, steady pace, leaving deep divots in the soft earth. You follow at a safe distance, feeling a strange mix of awe and a kind of sleepy comfort. There's something profoundly calming about watching a creature so perfectly adapted to its world, so at peace with its own existence. The gentle rustle of leaves, the soft, thudding footsteps, the quiet, focused chewing, it's almost like a form of prehistoric ASMR. You are walking in his wake, a ghost in a garden of giants, and your journey has just begun. You continue to follow the slow, shuffling progress of the giant sloth, keeping a respectful distance. He's moved out of the clearing and is now making his way into a more densely forested area, a mix of palms, ferns, and strange fan-like trees. The air here is even heavier, and the light is dappled in green. You notice a change in his behavior. He's no longer tearing down large branches. Instead, his attention is focused lower to the ground. He's foraging with a more delicate touch, if a creature this big can ever be said to be delicate. He sniffs at a patch of low-growing plants, his small head moving from side to side. Then, with a surprisingly quick and precise movement, he uses one of his massive claws to gently pull at the base of a clump of what look like ancient yams. He doesn't uproot the whole thing. He seems to be selecting just a mature tuber. He then uses his other forelimb to steady himself and his mouth to pull the plant from the soil. The roots are thick and fibrous, and he chews them with the same slow, grinding rhythm you heard earlier. This is a mainstream historical fact. The high-crowned teeth of Megatherium are perfectly suited for a diet of tough, fibrous plants, including roots and tubers. This underground foraging suggests a level of intelligence and adaptability beyond just tearing down branches. As he moves on, he approaches a different type of plant, a shrub with small, round, greenish-blue berries. He sniffs them, then uses his long, prehensile lips, a quirky tidbit, to carefully pluck a few from the branch. He chews them with a thoughtful expression on his face, if a sloth can be said to have one. This is a different kind of foraging, a more selective, almost gourmet approach. He's not just eating whatever is in front of him. He's choosing his food, tasting the different offerings of this prehistoric garden. This selective eating could have been driven by nutritional needs, a need for a specific vitamin, or perhaps just a simple craving for a sweeter taste. The scene makes you wonder about the sloth's relationship with the plants. Was it purely one of consumption, or was there a more symbiotic bond? Historians still argue whether the giant sloth, like modern elephants or fruit bats, played a crucial role in seed dispersal. By eating fruits and berries and then moving on, the sloth could have been a walking planter spreading seeds far and wide through its dung. This would have been a massive ecological service, a form of prehistoric gardening on a grand scale. Imagine that a walking, pooping landscape architect, a gentle giant shaping the future of the forest. With every meal, He moves into a marshy area, his huge feet sinking into the soft mud. The vegetation here is different again, a mix of tall reeds and rushes. He doesn't seem to be foraging for these, but rather using his weight to push through them, creating a path. It's an easy way for him to move without getting tangled, but it also creates a new clearing for other sun-loving plants to grow. He's not just an eater. He's an engineer, a pathfinder, and a landscaper all at once. It's a bit like how you might clear a path through a thicket, but instead of using a machete, you're using 4,000 kilograms of pure, shaggy sloth. He eventually stops at the edge of a small, tranquil pool, its surface covered with green algae. He lowers his massive head and drinks his long, sticky tongue, lapping up the water. This is a moment of pure, peaceful animal behavior, a simple act of survival. He doesn't seem to be in a rush, just living his life at a pace that is completely his own. It's a quiet, humbling scene, and it makes you feel like you are a part of this world, not just a visitor. You are observing a creature that is the pinnacle of its own evolutionary journey, a being so perfectly adapted to its time and place that it seems almost eternal. But you know that this peaceful existence, this quiet, rhythmic life, is a thing of the past. The knowledge of his eventual fate hangs in the air, a silent, somber note, in the otherwise peaceful symphony of the prehistoric forest. You are in his garden, and he is showing you its secrets. The giant sloth continues its slow procession through the forest, a living bulldozer with a surprisingly refined palate. You're no longer just observing. You're actively following a silent apprentice, learning the secrets of the sloth's garden. He moves with a kind of internal GPS, a deep, ancient knowledge of the landscape and its offerings. He seems to know exactly where to find the juiciest roots or the most tender leaves. This isn't random wandering. It's a purposeful foraging journey, an intricate dance between animal and ecosystem. As you follow, you begin to notice the different layers of this prehistoric world. There is the canopy, a vast green ceiling of intertwined branches and leaves where sunlight struggles to penetrate. This is the domain of the arboreal sloths, distant cousins of the giant ground sloth who lived their entire lives, suspended from the branches, a quirky tidbit that reminds you of the remarkable diversity of this extinct family. Our giant sloth, however, is a creature of the ground, a forager of the lower layers. He occasionally rears up to access the lower canopy, but his primary focus is on what's within reach. Beneath the canopy is the undergrowth, a chaotic, teeming layer of life. It's here that the giant sloth does most of its work. He navigates through thickets of ferns, pushing aside giant horsetails and stepping over fallen logs. He seems to be looking for specific plants, and you can see the evidence of his past meals, a stripped shrub here, a patch of dug-up earth there. This is a crucial mainstream historical fact, the fossilized dung heaps of Megatherium, known as coprolites, provide a detailed record of their diet, showing that they ate a wide variety of plants, from grasses and shrubs to tree leaves and even certain types of tough, woody vegetation. This suggests a highly adaptable diet, a key to their success in a changing world. You see him pause at a patch of low-growing mosses and use his long, sticky tongue to scoop some up. He chews thoughtfully. Historians still argue whether these mosses and lichens provided a significant source of nutrition, or if they were merely a way for the sloth to get water from the moist ground. It's a debate that highlights how much we still have to learn about the intricate feeding behaviors of these extinct giants. Maybe it was a digestive aid, a bit like how a dog might eat grass, but on a much grander scale. It's a moment that reminds you that we are only seeing a small snapshot of a complex life. The giant sloth moves with a certain slow deliberation that suggests immense power held in reserve. His movements are not hurried or frantic. They are steady and sure. It's a peaceful existence, a life lived at a pace that is completely his own. The world around him is a well-stocked pantry, and he is its unhurried diner. You find yourself wondering if he ever felt a sense of urgency, if he ever had to rush for a meal, or if his sheer size and power meant that the world simply made way for him. It's a question without an answer, a quiet mystery of the past. He comes to a stand of what look like ancient palms. He uses his forelimbs to grab a thick frond and pulls it down with ease. He strips the leaves with a single practiced motion, and you can see the sheer, unbridled power in his massive arms and claws. This is the kind of power that made him a king of his ecosystem. He didn't need to fight for his food. He could simply take it. His strength was his passport, his ticket to an all-you-can-eat buffet that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. You are now in the heart of the sloth's garden, a place shaped by its very existence. The trails he has forged, the clearings he has created, the plants he has pruned and eaten, all of it is a testament to his profound influence on the landscape. He is not just a consumer. He is a part of the ecological cycle, a silent force of nature shaping the world around him. You are no longer just a spectator. You are an observer in a masterclass of prehistoric ecology. The giant sloth, having quenched his thirst, continues his slow, ambling progress. You find yourself feeling a peculiar kind of kinship with him, now a shared silence in this prehistoric world. He stops at a peculiar-looking shrub, its leaves a deep, almost velvety green, and its branches laden with what look like large, pulpy seed pods. He doesn't tear the whole branch down this time. Instead, he uses his prehensile lips with surprising dexterity to pluck a few of the pods from the bush. He holds one in his massive claw for a moment, almost as if he's examining it, and then places it in his mouth. He chews slowly, the rhythmic crunching sound, a familiar presence in the quiet forest. This is where things get interesting. This particular shrub, which you recognize from its distinctive fronds, is a relative of the cacao plant, a key ingredient in modern chocolate. A quirky tidbit is that the giant sloth, based on fossilized gut content analysis, seems to have had a taste for the pulpy sweet fruit of ancient cacao pods. Imagine that this colossal creature, the original chocolate connoisseur wandering through the prehistoric forest, seeking out a sugary treat. But his foraging is about more than just a sweet tooth. He moves on to a different plant, a low-growing vine with small, bright red berries. He eats a few, then turns his head and coughs a low, guttural sound that seems to vibrate in the air. He then begins to eat more of the berries, and you notice his movements seem to become a little more fluid, a little less stiff. This leads to a fascinating historical fact. Many of the plants in the sloth's diet, including certain berries and roots, have medicinal properties. Some species contain compounds that are natural anti-inflammatories or pain relievers. The giant sloth, through trial and error, could have been a walking sea pharmacopoeia, using certain plants to soothe its aches and pains. This is a behavior we see in many modern animals, from bears eating specific herbs to elephants seeking out a certain kind of clay. Historians still argue whether this was a conscious, deliberate use of medicinal plants, or if the sloth was simply driven by instinct, but the evidence of these plants in their fossilized remains is compelling. The sloth's foraging wasn't just about survival. It was also a form of self-care. It was a testament to a deep, ingrained knowledge of the land and the healing powers of the flora within it. He was his own doctor, his own pharmacist, and his own chef, all rolled into one impossibly large furry package. You watch as he moves on his movements, becoming more sprightly, and you feel a strange sense of respect. He wasn't just a mindless eating machine. He was a creature with a complex relationship with its environment, a being that understood its own body and how to heal it. The forest itself seems to be a living pharmacy, a vast collection of remedies and tonics just waiting to be discovered. You see a patch of what looks like ancient ginger, its leaves a vibrant green, and a stand of flowering shrubs whose scent is a mix of mint and something sharp. It's a world where every plant tells a story of survival, of adaptation, and of the intricate, often invisible connections between life forms. As you continue to follow the sloth, you begin to see the world not just as a collection of trees and shrubs, but as a resource map. You see the plants that provide food, the ones that offer shelter, and the ones that might hold a cure for an ailment. The sloth is your guide, a silent furry teacher showing you the secrets of a world that has long since vanished. And for a moment, you almost forget that this is all just a memory, a fleeting glimpse into a world that no longer exists. The giant sloth, a walking pharmacy and a master forager, continues to move through the forest, and you get a closer look at the tools of his trade. It's easy to be distracted by his sheer size, but his true genius lies in his physical adaptations. His forelimbs, as you've seen, are incredibly powerful. They're not just for tearing down branches. They're a multi-purpose toolkit. He uses his massive claws not to fight, but to dig. You see him stop at a patch of particularly hard ground, where the earth is rich with nutrients, and begin to excavate. He doesn't scrape or claw. He pushes and pries using his claws like a human might use a shovel and pickaxe. This is a mainstream historical fact, fossil evidence of Megatherium. Claws shows they were blunt and robust, perfectly suited for digging for roots and tubers, and not sharp for piercing flesh. They were a tool for gardening, not for hunting. He unearths a large bulbous root, its surface covered in a network of fine hairs. He holds it with his paws and uses his powerful jaws to tear into it. His teeth, which you've already observed, are a perfect example of form following function. They are hypsodont, meaning high-crowned and grow continuously throughout his life, a quirky tidbit that's a hallmark of many large herbivores. This constant growth is a necessary adaptation to counteract the wear and tear from grinding tough fibrous plants, a bit like how a horse's teeth never stop growing. It's a natural maintenance system, a built-in renewal plan for his most important tool. But the sloth's foraging isn't just about strength and teeth. You notice his sense of smell is highly developed. He lifts his head, his small nostrils twitching as he catches a scent on the wind. He seems to be tracking something, perhaps a new patch of particularly desirable plants. This is a crucial skill in a world where food resources can be scattered and seasonal. Historians still argue whether the giant sloth, with its slow pace, had to rely more on memory and instinct than on speed and a sharp visual sense. It's likely that a detailed mental map of his territory, a kind of internal Google Maps of the prehistoric world, guided his movements and helped him find the best food sources. As he forages, he doesn't just eat, he also prunes. He bites off the ends of branches, which, for many plants, actually stimulates new, more vigorous growth. In a way, he is a silent gardener, shaping the landscape with every bite. The forest isn't just a place he lives in. It's a place he actively cultivates. You are watching a living, breathing example of a duped keystone species, an animal that has a disproportionately large effect on its natural environment relative to its abundance. Without the giant sloth, the forest would have looked and behaved very differently. He comes to a large fallen log, and instead of going around it, he simply climbs over it, his immense body moving with surprising agility. His claws, as you've seen, are not just for digging. They also provide grip, a kind of built-in grappling hook that allows him to move through difficult terrain. It's a moment that reminds you that this gentle giant was a master of his environment, a creature so perfectly adapted that it seemed to defy the very laws of physics. You are watching a truly magnificent beast, a creature of immense power and surprising grace, and you are learning that the secrets to its survival were not in speed or aggression, but in patience, strength, and a deep ingrained knowledge of its own garden. As you continue your silent journey alongside the giant sloth, you become aware that his garden is not an exclusive one. The air is thick with the sounds of other megafauna, the distant bellow of a mastodon, the sharp trumpeting of a gomphother, a kind of prehistoric elephant, and the high-pitched squeal of a herd of glyptodons, which are basically the size of a VW beetle with armored shells. This is a crucial mainstream historical fact. The late Pleistocene was a world teeming with colossal herbivores, all competing for the same resources. You watch as the giant sloth approaches a patch of what looks like giant spiny agave plants. He reaches out a claw, but then stops, his small head turning. He's not alone. A herd of gomphotheres is moving in his direction, their long, mobile trunks swaying from side to side as they sniff the air. They are massive, easily as big as modern elephants, and they are also hungry. The sloth is not in a position of dominance here. He has to share. He moves away from the agave patch, yielding the space to the approaching herd. There's no fight, no aggression, just a quiet, respectful retreat. This is a testament to the complex social dynamics of this ancient ecosystem. Resources weren't infinite, and competition was a daily reality. Historians still argue whether these giant herbivores had established territories or if they simply moved in a kind of fluid, nomadic pattern, following the seasonal availability of food. It's likely a mix of both, but what's clear is that they had to find a way to coexist. The giant sloth's slow, deliberate pace was both a strength and a weakness. It meant he was unlikely to be a first-to-the-buffet kind of guy, but his immense size and strength meant he could eat the toughest, most unappetizing parts of plants that other herbivores wouldn't bother with a quirky tidbit that highlights his unique niche in the food chain. You see him veer off, heading towards a stand of what looks like palm-like trees. He doesn't go for the leaves, but rather the central fronds, the heart of the palm. It's a tough, fibrous meal, but he seems to relish it. This is a kind of food that the gomphotheres, with their different teeth and digestive systems, wouldn't bother with. The sloth is not just a competitor. He is a specialist, a master of a specific part of the buffet that others have to leave alone. This is his superpower. He could eat the parts of the plants that no one else wanted, giving him a huge advantage in a world full of hungry giants. As you observe the scene, you feel a sense of unease. There's a new presence in the air, a scent you don't recognize. It's not the smell of an animal, you know. It's something different, something foreign. You see a large, crocodile-like reptile, Porosaurus, sunning itself on the banks of a nearby stream, its jaws agape. The sloth seems unbothered, giving it a wide berth. These were not his direct competitors, but they were a constant presence, a reminder of the dangers of this world. The sloth, in his quiet, peaceful existence, is not alone. He is part of a complex, interconnected web of life, a bustling metropolis of giants all trying to make a living. And you, a silent observer, are in the middle of it all, a guest in a garden that is so much more than it appears to be. The giant sloth continues to move his immense body a living bulldozer, and you realize that even in his wake, he leaves a trail of information. You're learning to read the forest floor as he does not just as a random collection of leaves and soil, but as a living record of his passage. You see a series of deep five-toed tracks, each one the size of a dinner plate, with a distinct drag mark of a massive claw. This is a mainstream historical fact. Fossilized footprints, or ichnofossils, are a key source of information about the movement and behavior of extinct animals. They tell us that the giant sloth walked on the outer edges of its feet, a kind of knuckle walking, to keep its long claws from being worn down. It's a bit like how you might walk on your tiptoes to avoid stepping in a puddle, but with 8,000 pounds of animal. You also notice the signs of his foraging. There are stripped branches, a clear sign of his passing. The leaves are gone, but the wood is not broken or splintered, just cleanly stripped. You see patches of disturbed earth where he has been digging for roots and tubers. And then you see something that makes you stop dead in your tracks, a massive pile of fossilized dung known as a coprolitic heap. It's an oddly beautiful sight, a collection of petrified plant matter seeds and even ancient pollen. This is a quirky tidbit. These dung heaps are a treasure trove for paleontologists. They're a kind of ancient food diary, a detailed record of the sloth's diet, and a snapshot of the plant life in this long-vanished ecosystem. You kneel down and look closer at the coprolite. You can see the distinct shapes of different seeds, the fibrous remnants of grasses, and the tiny, almost invisible pollen grains. This is a crucial piece of evidence that helps us understand the sloth's diet. It's a kind of botanical time capsule. Historians still argue about the seasonality of the giant sloth's diet based on the pollen and plant matter found in these coprolites. Did they eat different things at different times of the year, or were they more opportunistic, eating whatever was available? The evidence is still being pieced together, one petrified dung pile at a time. It's a messy job, but someone's got to do it. The sloth, meanwhile, is unbothered by your fascination with his, leavings. He moves on, and you notice the distinct flattened trail he's created. He's not just moving through the forest, he's shaping it. His sheer weight and size are a force of nature, a kind of organic landscaping tool that clears paths and creates new opportunities for plant life to flourish. You can see smaller animals like ancient armadillos and glyptodons using his trails as their own personal highways. The sloth is a kind of ecosystem engineer, a living, breathing part of the landscape. You feel a strange sense of respect for this gentle giant. He's not a flashy predator or swift-footed grazer. He's a slow, deliberate, and powerful force of nature, a silent gardener who leaves a trail of life and history in his wake. And you, a silent observer in this forgotten world, are learning to read the language of the ground to understand the story that the sloth is telling with every single step. As you continue your silent journey, you begin to notice something new about the giant sloth. He is not, as you first assumed, a completely solitary creature. He approaches a small, sunlit clearing, and you see another one, a female, smaller than the male you have been following, but still impossibly large. She is foraging on her own a few meters away, but there is a clear sense of awareness between them. They don't greet each other with a call or a touch. Instead, their presence is enough, a quiet acknowledgement of shared space. This is a mainstream historical fact based on trackways and fossil evidence. It's believed that giant sloths were largely solitary, but sometimes came together in pairs or small family groups, particularly during mating or in areas with abundant food. The female is a little more graceful, a little faster in her movements. She is focused on a different part of the buffet, a patch of low-growing shrubs. She seems to be a specialist in her own right, a quiet counterpoint to the male's more heavy-handed approach. This leads to a fascinating debate among historians. Was the social structure of giant sloths rigid, or was it fluid and opportunistic? Did they form small herds for protection, or was their immense size their only defense? The answer is likely somewhere in the middle, a quirky tidbit that reminds us that animal behavior is rarely as simple as we imagine it to be. You watch as the male and female forge their actions, a kind of silent conversation. He moves toward the edge of the clearing, and she moves in the opposite direction. It's not a rejection. It's a kind of spatial dance, a quiet agreement to give each other space while remaining within a comfortable distance. This suggests a level of social intelligence that is often underestimated in these prehistoric giants. They weren't just big, dumb herbivores. They were complex beings with their own social codes and silent languages. You see a small, juvenile sloth, barely the size of a modern car, clinging to the back of the female. It's an adorable sight if you can call an 800-pound baby adorable. The young sloth is a miniature version of its mother, its claws already well developed, its fur shaggy and thick. It occasionally reaches out to grab a leaf from a branch, mimicking its mother's movements. This is a crucial piece of information about their life cycle. The young would have stayed with their mothers for a significant period, learning the foraging routes, the best places to find food, and the dangers of the world. This maternal bond would have been key to their survival. The male, who you've been following all this time, moves closer to the female and her young. He doesn't touch them or make a sound. He simply sits down a few meters away, his immense body a kind of protective shield. It's a moment of quiet, unspoken affection, a silent declaration of family. He is not just a forager. He is a protector, a sentinel in the sloth's secret garden. The scene is a reminder that even in a world of giants, there was a place for family, for connection, and for the quiet bonds that make life worth living. The quiet family scene is a peaceful interlude in the ongoing story of the giant sloth. But the air is changing. The humidity seems to lessen, and the smell of lush, decaying vegetation is slowly giving way to something drier, dustier. You notice the leaves on some of the trees are beginning to change color, and some of the more delicate ferns are starting to shrivel and brown at the edges. This is a crucial mainstream historical fact. The climate of the late Pleistocene was not static. It was a time of immense and rapid climate shifts as the Earth cycled in and out of ice ages. This is the Pleistocene Megafauna extinction event. And you are watching its slow, inexorable march. The sloth, however, seems to have a plan. He is no longer just foraging in one area. His movements become a little more purposeful, a little more directed. He is moving north, following the retreating climate, seeking out new sources of food. You see him stop at a different kind of plant, a tough fibrous conifer. He chews on its needles and bark a far cry from the tender leaves and roots he was eating before. This change in diet is a sign of his adaptability. He is not tied to one kind of food. He is a master of many. This is a testament to the sloth's resilience, a quirky tidbit that shows how these massive herbivores were able to thrive in a world that was constantly changing. But the changing climate isn't just affecting the plants. The very landscape is different. The lush tropical forests are slowly giving way to more open grasslands, and the ground is harder, drier, and less forgiving. The sloth's slow, ponderous gait, which was so effective in the soft, loamy soil of the forest, is now a little more difficult. He has to work harder for every step, his massive body a little more of a burden. You watch as the sloth and his family move a slow-moving caravan of giants. They seem to know that the world they once knew is gone, and they have to adapt or perish. Historians still argue whether this climate change was the primary cause of the megafauna extinction, or if other factors, which you will soon learn about, played a more significant role. What is clear is that the world was becoming a less friendly place for creatures of such immense size. The plants they relied on were becoming more scarce. The watering holes were drying up, and the world was becoming a harder, harsher place to live. The sloth's foraging habits are a window into this changing world. He is no longer able to simply take what he wants. He has to work for it. He has to dig harder, travel further, and eat plants that are less palatable and less nutritious. But he does it with a stoic determination, a quiet resignation to his fate. You are watching a truly magnificent creature fighting for its survival, adapting to a world that is no longer its own, a world that is slowly, inexorably closing in on it. The giant sloth and his small family continue their slow northward migration, a living symbol of a changing world. The landscape is a testament to the shift. You've left the humid forest behind and are now in a world of vast, open grasslands, a sea of golden brown stalks that rustle in the dry wind. The occasional tree is a gnarled, hardy species, a survivor in this new, harsher climate. This is a crucial mainstream historical fact, the formation of the Panamanian Isthmus. Around 3 million years ago, created a land bridge between North and South America, a geological event known as the Great American Interchange. It allowed South American animals like the giant sloth to migrate north into what is now the United States and vice versa. It was a mass migration on an epic scale, and you are witnessing its tail end. The sloth's foraging habits are adapting again. He is no longer pulling down branches from trees. He is now focused on the ground, his powerful claws digging into the dry earth for roots and tubers. He is eating tough, dry grasses that would have been unpalatable in his old home. His powerful digestive system, a quirk of his evolution, is perfectly suited for this kind of biological garbage disposal that can extract nutrients from the most fibrous of plants. He is a survivor, a testament to the power of adaptation. But you sense that this is a temporary fix-a-stopgap measure in a world that is becoming less and less friendly to his kind. Historians still argue whether the giant sloth's success in migrating north was due to its adaptability, or if it was simply a matter of luck, a temporary window of opportunity that was slowly closing. What is clear is that his presence in North America was a temporary phenomenon, a brief moment in geological time. He was a visitor in a land that was already changing, and his days were numbered. You notice something else as you follow him. The other animals are different. You see herds of shaggy longhorn bison and the distant flash of a saber-toothed cat. The world here is faster, more dangerous, and the competition is different. The sloth is no longer the biggest kid on the block. He is now just one among many giants, and the food chain is a little more complex, a little more brutal. The sloth, however, seems unbothered. He forages with the same quiet determination, the same slow, rhythmic movements. He is focused on his task, a single-minded pursuit of survival in a world that is becoming more and more alien to him. His journey is a testament to the power of a single animal's will to survive a slow, determined march against the relentless forces of nature. And you, a silent witness, are watching a world slowly, inexorably fade away. The journey north continues, and the world is becoming even more alien. The sloth and his family are now in a vast open plain, a landscape that is less a garden and more a windswept expanse of grasses and tough woody shrubs. The air is dry and cold, and the sun, when it appears from behind the clouds, offers little warmth. This is a crucial mainstream historical fact. The planet was in the grip of the late Pleistocene Ice Age, a time of immense cold and widespread glaciation. The lush forests of the sloth's ancestral home were now distant memories, but then you feel a different kind of presence in the air. It's not the scent of an animal, you know, or the sound of a beast you have encountered before. It's a new scent, a new sound, and a new kind of silence. The herds of bison seem to be on edge, their heads up, their bodies tensed. The saber-toothed cats are in hiding, their usual swagger replaced by a cautious retreat. The air is full of a new kind of tension, a kind of primal fear that you've never felt before. You see it then. The first signs of a new predator. Not a great cat or a dire wolf, but something smaller, something that walks on two legs. A band of Zeke, Paleo-Indians. Ancient humans are moving across the plain. They are not alone. They are armed with spears, tipped with finely crafted stone points, and they move with a quiet, coordinated purpose. This is a crucial, if controversial, historical fact. The arrival of humans in the Americas coincided with the extinction of the Megafauna. And historians still argue whether humans were the primary cause of the extinction or if they were just one factor among many. You watch as the humans approach a herd of camels, their spears at the ready. Their movements are swift, their coordination perfect. They are not just hunters, they are strategists, problem solvers, and innovators. They are a new kind of predator, and the world is not ready for them. The sloth, however, seems oblivious. His immense size and slow, ponderous movements have always been his defense. He has no natural enemies. He has nothing to fear. He continues to forage his head down, his focus on the tough grasses of the plain. It's a moment of terrifying naivete, a quirk of evolution that has left him unprepared for the most dangerous predator of all. He has spent his life in a world where his size was his shield, and he has no way of knowing that a simple piece of flint propelled by a human arm can bring him down. The air around the giant sloth is no longer one of peace and quiet. It's now one of anticipation, of an impending confrontation that he is completely unaware of. You are watching a truly magnificent animal walking into a trap, a prehistoric king in a new world where he is no longer at the top of the food chain. The sloth's secret garden, a place of peace and quiet foraging, is about to become a hunting ground, and you are a silent witness to its final days. The wind carries a new scent, a scent that is not of animal or plant, but of wood smoke, and a faint, acrid smell of cooking meat. It's a smell that the giant sloth, in his millennia of evolution, has never encountered before. The Paleo-Indians are still a presence on the horizon, a new and unsettling force in this world. The sloth, however, continues his slow, rhythmic march, his mind focused on the simple task of survival. He is not a strategic animal in the human sense. He is a creature of instinctive habit, of a deep, ingrained knowledge of the land that has served him well for millions of years. But in this new world, instinct is no longer enough. He enters a small valley, a quiet, almost idyllic place that seems to be a pocket of his old world. The air here is still and humid, and the ground is rich with new growth. There are lush ferns and low-growing shrubs, a kind of hidden Eden in the midst of a world that is becoming more and more hostile. This is a crucial mainstream historical fact. The planet was still home to these small, isolated pockets of biodiversity, microclimates that held on to the old ways, long after the rest of the world had changed. These were the last gardens of the giants. The sloth seems to know this. He forages with a renewed sense of purpose, his movements a little less weary, his head held a little higher. He is in his element, a king in his own small kingdom. He eats the tender leaves of a broad-leafed tree, the kind you saw him tear down so easily in the beginning of your journey. He drinks from a small, clear spring, its water cold and pure. He is at peace, a magnificent animal in the last moments of a world that was made for him. But you know that this peace is temporary, a fleeting moment of calm before the storm. Historians still argue whether these isolated pockets of biodiversity could have been a refuge for the megafauna, a place where they could have held on to survival. What is clear is that these places were islands in a sea of change, and the forces that were driving the extinction were relentless and widespread. The climate was still getting colder, the plants were still changing, and the new predator was still out there, its hunting grounds expanding with every passing year. The sloth's foraging in this little valley is a kind of last meal, a final, poignant moment in a long and storied life. He seems to be savoring every bite, every moment of peace. It's a quiet, beautiful scene, a quirky tidbit that reminds us that even in the face of extinction, there can be moments of grace and beauty. You are a silent witness to a final meal, and you feel a sense of profound sadness, a kind of grief for a world that you never knew but have come to love. You know what's coming, and you are powerless to stop it. The peaceful moment in the valley is fleeting. The air grows still, the birdsong ceases, and a profound, unsettling silence falls over the land. The giant sloth, a creature that has no natural predators, seems to sense the change. He stops his foraging and lifts his head, his small eyes scanning the trees at the edge of the valley. He is not a quick animal, and his responses are slow and deliberate. A product of a world where speed was a disadvantage and immense size was the ultimate defense. But that world is gone. You see the figures now moving like shadows among the trees. The Paleo-Indians. They are not a single cohesive force, but small, coordinated groups encircling the valley with a quiet, lethal efficiency. They have been tracking the sloth for days, following the trail of stripped trees and immense footprints. They know his habits, his foraging patterns, and his immense, unhurried pace. They have studied him, and they have come for him. This is a crucial, mainstream historical fact. The archaeological record shows that Paleo-Indian hunting strategies were highly effective, targeting not just small game, but also megafauna like mammoths and mastodons. Their tools, including the distinctive Clovis points, were a kind of technological leap, a tool that could bring down an animal of the sloth's size. The sloth seems to finally understand the threat, but it's too late. His immense body, once his greatest asset, is now a liability. He is too big to hide, too slow to run. He rears up on his hind legs, a defensive stance that would have terrified any other predator. His massive claws, so effective for digging, are now his only weapon. But the humans are not deterred. They are not driven by a primal need for conquest. They are driven by the simple need for survival. A single adult sloth could provide enough meat and hides to sustain a small tribe for a long, cold winter. Historians still argue about the moral implications of this hunt. Was it a necessity, a simple act of survival, or was it the beginning of a pattern of human-driven extinction? The answer is likely somewhere in the middle, a grim dance between a changing world and a new kind of intelligence. The sloth's extinction was not the result of a single cataclysmic event. It was a perfect storm of factors, a changing climate that was already stressing his ecosystem, a new and effective predator that was targeting his kind and a slow evolutionary pace that had left him unprepared for the new world. It's a sad, quirky tidbit that reminds us that even the most powerful creatures can be rendered helpless by a combination of forces they don't understand. The air is filled with the sound of a stone meeting flesh, a high-pitched grunt of pain, and then a profound final silence. The great sloth is no more. You are a witness to the end of a species, a final quiet echo in a world that is moving on without him. His secret garden, a place of peace and quiet foraging, is now a graveyard, and you are standing in the middle of it. The valley is now silent. The sounds of the hunt have faded, and the air is heavy with a sense of finality. You are standing in a place of great significance, a quiet witness to a moment that marked the end of an era. The giant sloth, a creature of immense power and surprising gentleness, is gone. His secret garden, the lush and bountiful ecosystem that was his for millennia, is now just a memory, a fleeting moment in the long, slow march of time. You look at the ground and see the last of his footprints, the deep, five-toed tracks that will soon be filled with dust and forgotten. The extinction of the giant sloth, a mainstream historical fact, was not a simple event. It was a complex, multifaceted process. It was the result of a perfect storm of factors, the relentless pressure of a changing climate, the slow, inexorable march of a new kind of predator, and a slow evolutionary pace that had left him unprepared for the new world. It's a sobering thought, a reminder that even the most powerful creatures are not immune to the forces of nature and the hand of man. Historians still argue whether the primary cause was climate change or human impact, but it's clear that both played a role, a 1-2 punch that sealed the sloth's fate. You walk through the valley and you feel the weight of history all around you. You see the stripped trees, the dug-up roots, the trampled grasses, all the evidence of a life, lived a life cut short. This is the legacy of the giant sloth, a quiet testament to a world that was and is no more. It's a quirky tidbit that a creature so big could disappear so completely, leaving behind nothing but bones and a handful of petrified dung heaps. It's a reminder that even the largest and most powerful among us can be rendered invisible by the passage of time. You sit down on a low moss-covered rock, the air cool against your skin. The sun is setting, casting long, soft shadows across the valley. You think about the sloth not as a collection of bones and facts, but as a living, breathing creature. You remember the slow, rhythmic sound of his chewing, the quiet dignity of his presence, the surprising grace of his movements. You remember the silent communication between the male and the female, the protective love of a mother for her young. You remember his quiet determination to survive in a world that was turning against him. The story of the giant sloth is not just a story of extinction. It's a story of life, of survival, of a deep and intricate relationship between an animal and its environment. It's a story that reminds us of the fragility of life even in its most powerful forms. It's a story that asks us to look at our own world, to see the connections we have with the plants and animals around us, and to ask ourselves what kind of legacy we are leaving behind. The sloth's secret garden may be gone, but the lesson it holds for us is a timeless one. The world is a precious and fragile thing, and it is up to us to protect it. You are a witness to the final echo of a forgotten world, and you will never forget the quiet dignity of the gentle giant who once called it home. Now, as the last light of the sun fades and the stars begin to appear, let the sounds of the prehistoric world slowly recede. The thudding footsteps, the rustling leaves, the soft rhythmic chewing, let them all fade into a distant hum, a quiet memory of a time long past. The air is cool, the world is still, and you are safe, tucked away and at peace. Close your eyes, let the soft background hum of the fan soothe you, and let the quiet, powerful image of the gentle giant linger in your mind. The journey is over, but the memory remains a quiet, lingering echo of a world that once was. Sweet dreams.